Hello, welcome to Syndicate podcast. Today we'd like to talk about three interesting topics about life, our value of life, strategy on how to prevent unethical morality, and what our opinion toward the theory of ethics. Three topics must bring business perspective as our basic study toward business ethics, law, and sustainability subject. Before we're going further, let me introduce myself. I'm Aliva, who will guide you through today's podcast. Please introduce yourself, guys.
Hello, my name is Nurgiri.
Hello, my name is Lalu Arman.
Hi, I'm Anouck.
Hello, my name is Rafina Rahmadhina.
And so here we go. Back then in 1992, Schwartz and colleagues have theorized and shown empirical support for the existence of 10 basic individual values. He also refers that individual values are responses to three universal requirements of human existence, namely needs of people as biological organisms, of agreement in social actions, and of survival and well-being of groups. How do moral foundation and values inform you about your own ethical decision making, especially in the business context? Let's start with you. How about you, Anouck?
I believe that moral foundations and values play a major role in a person's decision making, and equally so in the world of work. A person's personality, values, and beliefs will influence and guide the decision an individual makes and the action he takes. The person will do anything to avoid making a decision that is contrary to her ethics and values. The Schwartz Value Survey provides an understanding of how values and moral foundations play a role in our decision making. In taking the test, I found that my moral foundations and values are mostly based on hedonism, which is a doctrine that takes pleasure seeking and avoidance of suffering as a principle of morality. I can feel in my decision making since I tend to privilege the things that give me pleasure, even if it means that abandoning those that I fear. I see it in my work. I tend to favor the missions I enjoy doing, even if they're not priority, and put off the one I dread until I no longer have the choice to do them. My moral foundations and values are then based equally on achievement, stimulation, and self-direction. This means that I'm a person open to change and self-enhancement. I like to make decisions that make me evolve in my work, progress, and that can take me out of my comfort zone. I believe that being open to change at work gives access to new opportunities that can improve our quality of life and work. However, according to the Schwartz Value Survey, my moral foundations and values with the lowest score are tradition and power. I think this reflects my personality well, as I like change, evolution. However, I do not like to be controlled and directed, and can tend to get frustrated in a decision-making process. If I find a person is too directive and dominant in their words, I think that decision-making is possible if each stakeholder can express himself and put forward himself.
That's very interesting, Anouck. So Anouck's opinion makes me want to share my own result because my Schwartz value test is the opposite from the Anouck's result. And my moral foundation and values based on Schwartz have tradition, conformity, and benevolence as my highest score with an equal total of points. So from the source theory, I learned that the tradition value is on the same continuum with conformity, meaning that they are especially forced motivationally. They share the goal of subordinating the self to socially imposed expectation, where benevolence value makes people want to preserve and enhance the welfare of those with whom one is in frequent personal contact or being group. So this characteristic is similar to how I make my decision in a business context. For example, I tend to prioritize subordinating myself to social expectation, where this could be a good and a bad thing for me personally, because the good thing is I am good at learning what others expect from me, and I will try my best to fill that expectation just to prioritize cooperative and supportive social relations. But on the other hand, it could be a bad thing for me because sometimes I was track and therefore lower my own expectation and interest whenever I negotiate because I am afraid to disrupt social relation and I am afraid of uncomfortable working situations. Next, maybe after learning this word value, I know how to make a better decision by adopting other value from the opposite continuum like self-creation or achievement to balance my current value.
Okay, we've heard enough from the lady side here, which have opposite value of each other. I will add less from the girl side, which is mine. My highest result for short value theory is stimulation, followed by self-direction and universalism with the same weight, which is similar with Anouck, meaning that there is same value of openness to exchange persons. I'm doing a little research toward what does that means for me, so stimulation type of goal is excitement, novelty, and challenge in life, while self-direction goal is independent thought and action, choosing, creating, exploring. I define that as my value can be replaced and improved in my lifetime. This value can direct me toward inconsistent and longer time of decision making means that I might not have pattern of decision if given several options. Because I tend to explore any changes, this is why it might take longer to take a decision or might not take the best option given because I have experienced it. My lowest score is conformity and power. Anouck has mentioned that this type of people doesn't want to be restricted. In business context, I might avoid partners who forward over us. This can limit my flexibility and exploratory change. I also agree with Anouck that people should freely express themselves. The important thing is with the freedom given, we should be responsible of our decision and try not to disappoint but just move on and learn. Let's hear from the gentleman. Lalu, please explain your result.
Okay, thank you, Aliva. From my opinion, the Schwartz value theory provides a useful framework for understanding how values shape behavior and can help individuals identify their core values and prioritize them in their decision making. My result for Schwartz have the highest point in stimulation. Usually people who score high on stimulation value excitement, novelty, and a variety of experiences. We enjoy being challenged, taking risks, and exploring new things. In the business context, this might translate into a desire to pursue innovative or disruptive business, or to take risks in pursuit of a big payoff. However, it's important to keep in mind that ethical decision making requires considering not just the potential benefit of a particular course of action, but also its potential risk and cost. One way to ensure that your decision making is guided by ethical consideration is to be mindful of the potential impact of your action on stakeholders, such as a customer, employees, suppliers, and the wider community. This can help you weigh the potential benefit of a particular course of action against its potential costs and consequences, and make a decision that is aligned with your values. For example, in the business context of my experience, I was in a project marketing campaign for a financial product in PT Pos Indonesia. I did a referral program campaign using a sales promotion to launch a referral program where existing customer can earn discount or free shipping by referring their friends and colleagues to PT Pos Indonesia Financial Service. And I do the social media ads also, while the others marketing campaign only using the canvassing marketing.
Okay, great opinion, Lalu. From my highest result on the Schwartz values scale survey is universalism and benevolence at the same score. I think the value of universalism and benevolence is similar. Universalism values relate to concern for the welfare of all people and for nature. Individuals who prioritize universalism values tend to prioritize social justice, equality, and environmental protections. Benevolence values, on the other hand, relate to concern for the welfare of others, especially those who are close to the individual. Individuals who prioritize benevolence values tend to be caring, empathic, and helpful. I think together these values reflect a strong emphasis on the importance of caring for others and the world around us. And in the business context, I've read the KPK journal. The title is Profile of Corruptors based on a review of basic human values. There is stated that there are similarities in the profile of corruptors. The corruptors have low universalism and benevolence values. I think this is appropriate with my profile, which is that I had to see corruption in my workplace in any form. For me, corruption is an act that cannot be tolerated because it can harm many parties.
So, if we remember the Schwartz value theory can be drawn into wheels which have four quadrants. Syndicate 4 has Anouck, me, and Lalu, openness to change quadrant, Nurgiri in self-transcendence quadrant, and Rachma in conservatism quadrant. Anouck has also self-enhancement quadrant. I can conclude that our group is full of diversity, which I can see as an opportunity to complete each other. Next, we are going to talk about unethical behavior in the form of moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction. To answer the second question of our strategies to avoid moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction in our organizational or business decision making, we will talk one by one. First is moral neglect. Moral neglect can be defined as any case of wrongdoing due to culpable ignorance of the effect that one's act violates one's own moral principles. Let's hear from everyone how their strategies are on avoiding unethical behavior.
First thing first, before we are going any further, in my opinion, if we talk about strategy to avoid this kind of unethical behavior, we have to define whether the force is coming from our individual forces or institutional forces. For moral neglect itself, I think since it roots from social norms and categorization, it is important for us to take control in choosing what kind of social groups or organization we interact with daily. We need to build our moral awareness to avoid moral neglect by having a support system that shares the same values as us. We can avoid moral neglect and strengthen our moral compass at the same time.
To avoid moral neglect, it is important to prioritize the ethical consideration in decision-making process. This may involve seeking out diverse perspectives and opinions, conducting thorough research, and considering the potential impact of decision on various stakeholders.
So to talk about the business aspects, from my point of view, a company can avoid moral neglect by clearly defining the mission attributed to an employee. Indeed, the person would feel concerned by the consequences of her job if the missions are not well described and directly pointed to her. The company should set up sensibilization campaigns towards its employees to confront them to the direct impact of their work and actions. For example, workshops on harassment or on the environment could really help employees to assimilate what are the consequences of their actions.
Moral justification can be defined as the socio-cognitive mechanism through which detrimental conduct is made personally and socially acceptable by portraying it as serving socially worthy or moral purposes.
Moral justification can induce people to bypass self-sanction and violate personal standards. Thus said, there are some ways to avoid this kind of attitude. An employee can comfort himself in a group by ease and thus not worry anymore about whether his actions are moral or not. Through the group effect, the employee feels protected and does not act accordingly. He does not try to improve the situation and will just follow the group effect. However, it's important to take into consideration that each individual action has global consequences. The company must therefore ensure that each employee expresses his or her conviction without being under the influence of the group. The company can then organize activities between departments to promote communication and put in the members' relationship between the different sectors.
Good point from Anouck. From my opinion, to avoid the moral justification, it is important to maintain a strong moral compass and hold oneself accountable for upholding ethical principles and values. This may require being willing to speak up and challenge unethical behavior or decision, even if it's difficult or unpopular to do so.
Yeah, for me, for moral justification, just like moral neglect itself, being in a supportive environment could also be a good strategy because we will have a constant reminder of what a good value or a moral correction action is. The strategy to avoid moral justification is by practicing and learning to be more considerate whenever making a business decision. So we won't have the chance to justify any immoral actions every time it comes to our mind.
The explanation of this moral inaction is often described in terms of diffusion of responsibility. When the cause of inaction can be shared among multiple parties, individuals are less likely to take responsibility for action themselves. The bystander effect is robust in part because it allows people to take advantage of a bias that causes us to evaluate acts more harshly than omission and direct causation as worse than indirect causation.
Avoiding moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction in organizational or business decision making requires a conscious effort to prioritize ethical considerations and engage in ethical reflections. There are some strategies to avoid moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction. But I will focus on two things that I think are the most important. First, take responsibility for the ethical implication of decision by acknowledging the potential impact on stakeholders and considering ways to mitigate any negative consequences. And the second is consider the long-term impact of the decision on stakeholders, the environment, and society as a whole. This requires a commitment to sustainability and a focus on creating long-term values for all stakeholders. By following these strategies, decision makers can avoid moral neglect, moral justification, and moral inaction, and promote ethical behavior within their organization. This can lead to improved trust and reputation, better stakeholder relationship, and a more sustainable and responsible business model.
I agree with Yuri that in order to make a company ethically successful and avoid moral inaction, it has to promote values and reinforce the enterprise culture. Employees should feel comfortable in speaking out about their problems in order to increase their productivity. A company with good communication is the key to success. Without communication, the employee will feel detached from the company and will not respond for his actions. The company should implement a non-judgmental culture so that everyone feels comfortable talking. If the firm reinforces its enterprise culture by creating a real community, the employee will feel more involved in the company's missions and values. If the company faces ethical issues, the employee will feel guilty and will be more proactive to make things change.
To avoid moral inaction, it is important to be proactive in addressing potential ethical concerns. This may involve regularly reviewing the organizational policies and procedures to ensure that they align with the ethical principles, seeking feedback and input from stakeholders, and being willing to make a difficult decision even if they are unpopular. It is also important to cultivate a culture of ethical decision making within an organization. This can be done by promoting transparency, accountability, and open communication, and by creating an environment in which ethical considerations are prioritized.
For me, when we talk about moral inaction, I see that the main forces that drive people into doing moral inaction mostly lie on social conformity and bureaucracy. This means that there are situational and organizational forces that lure people into doing so. Because of that, my strategy to avoid moral neglect, moral inaction in a business setting is by putting a morally responsible person who holds high value to be a leader in a group or an organization, so he or she can be a good role model. Having a role model who has high moral standards and a strong moral compass could help shaping the organization and the people inside to have less moral inaction.
Okay, before summarizing, I will add my opinion about a strategy to prevent unethical behavior. First, I would like to see the definition of moral itself. A wrong moral definition from reconstruction of Nietzsche's argument is morality demands that you comply with its own values, ideals, and duties, irrespective of whether the result conflicts with what is good for you personally. Morality takes itself to apply to all people equally, so you cannot escape morality when it conflicts with what is good for you personally. So according to him, morality is a very subjective thing that we need to respect and to know each other's concern is by communication. As long there is a mutual agreement in the parties involved, means there's no problem toward moral. That's my moral compass. To evaluate whether a case, including as moral problem or not. Besides, I think rule and law is a written and mandatory agreement among people that conforms our behavior. Its position to complete a subjective moral value and punish anyone who harmed the agreement. In business perspective, a strategy to prevent unethical behavior is we define our company's mission and try to communicate it to every employee. Could be a workshop, training, or seminar. The mission itself supports by do's and don'ts, which is rules that employee has complied to. Company has to build a system which monitor well to implement rewards for everyone with good attitude and punishment who don'ts. Also secure system which employee trust to. A good culture of company can be built when they can implement those things based on our group's opinion. Last but not least, we've been learned 4 theories of ethics. Which one do you guys think it is appropriate to inform you about solving ethical issues or dilemmas in your business decision making?
Theories of ethics can inform individuals and organizations about how to approach and solve the ethical issue or dilemmas in business decision making. Specifically, the Schwartz value theory, which includes values such as stimulation, can provide a framework for making ethical decisions by considering the values that are important to the individual or organization. For example, in the context of contracts, ethical theories such as deontological ethics can inform business decision makers about their responsibilities to uphold contractual obligations and act with honesty and fairness toward their partners. In addition, sustainability-related considerations can be incorporated into ethical decision making by applying theories such as virtue ethics to ensure that business practices align with sustainability goals and do not cause harm to environment or society. Overall, ethical theories can provide a framework for making ethical business decisions that are consistent with personal and organizational values, legal requirements, and also sustainability goals.
I will try to see the problem from a deontological ethics perspective. Deontological ethics is an ethical theory that emphasizes the importance of adhering to moral rules and duties. According to this theory, certain actions are inherently right or wrong, regardless of their consequences. In the context of business decision making, deontological ethics can help guide individuals toward making decisions that are morally right, even if they are not the most profitable from a business perspective. When faced with ethical issues or dilemmas in business decision making, individuals who adhere to deontological ethics should consider the moral rules and duties that apply to the situation. For example, if a company is considering entering into a contract with a supplier who has a history of labor violations, a deontological approach will require the company to consider the moral duty to respect the right and dignity of workers. The company would need to weigh the potential financial benefits of the contract against the ethical implications of supporting a supplier with a poor track record on labor practices. So, by prioritizing moral obligations over financial gains, businesses can build a reputation for ethical behavior and responsible decision making, which can ultimately benefit them in the long run.
So, I think both Lalu and Kay explain a collaboration between deontological and consequentialist ethics, which I assume as stakeholder theory that suit on business perspective. It is about how to comply a business based on regulation and has good impact towards society and environment. Nice perspective. And how about you, ladies?
I find the ideas shared by Lalu and Gary very interesting. I believe that in ethical deliberation, the action to be taken in the problematic situation must take into account oneself and one's values by analyzing the consequences that this decision may have on oneself and on others. It is an attempt to make the best decision as a human being in a society and as a company. Theories of ethics can inform us on how to resolve ethical issues or dilemmas in business decision making by giving us different perspectives, principles, and criteria to guide our actions. In the context of business decision making, theories of ethics can help us resolve ethical issues or dilemmas in many ways. Theories of ethics help us to analyze the situation from different ethical perspectives, to evaluate alternative solutions based on ethical principles and criteria, to choose the option that is most consistent with our values and desired goals, or to make a decision by thinking about the consequences of the decision.
So I would like to complement the gentleman's answer from the ontological perspective. I will share my opinion on how theories of ethics inform decision making from the consequentialist perspective. For me, being reminded about what the consequences for our action is the most efficient way for a business entity to be more responsible and more sustainable. Consequentialist ethics relies on weighting the advantages and the disadvantages from any business decision towards all of stakeholders that might be impacted. For example, before a company decides on how much land they will use to build a power plant, they have to do an environmental cost and benefit analysis to get the idea on how much land they can use to prevent land use challenges such as the reducing water quality for the area, harming the biodiversity, or toxic harm. In making the decision, the company might be tempted to maximize their profit by using all of the land available without considering the environmental impact. But by using the consequentialist ethics, companies should weigh the advantages that they may have with the disadvantages that may come. Especially all of the damage if the company decided to disobey the law and the regulation from the government or overlooking sustainable development.
That's a very nice opinion too from the ladies. So I would like to add also my opinion that in business perspectives, company must consider two things: regulation and impact as in stakeholder theory. Regulation is a mandatory one which included in the ontological theory. Regulation was made to prevent a bad outcome. For instance, every company must have a sustainability report, which one of the content is waste management. The regulation intends to prevent environmental pollution, a bad outcome in consequentialist theory that will occur if there's no regulation on it. So the subjects, ethics, law, and sustainability is unity that complete each other. It's a wrap up from Syndicate podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
For the greater good.
But I will focus on two things that I think are the most important. First, take responsibility for the ethical implications of decision by acknowledging ayolah.
Maksud. Sorry, saya ini dulu telah. Udah, sampai dulu gitu.
Maaf. Nggak bisa, udah.
Tapi sebelahnya gimana? Udah klik. Nah, apa lagi. Aduh.